Hey sports fans, here's a tip to keep in mind the next time you make your betting picks. According to research, home field advantage is no joke, especially in those playoffs. In the NBA and the NFL postseason, the home team typically has a 64% shot at victory. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome to hour number 3, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. I am Ben Stevens. He is Joe Ranieri. One more hour to go up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. And in this third and final hour, we'll talk some NBA basketball after the weekend. Less than 2 weeks remain in the regular season. 2 weeks from yesterday, on a Sunday in the middle of April, that will do it for 82 games around the NBA. The playoff spots that need to be figured out, the postseason positioning that needs to take shape, and a couple of games around the association to break down here. We will also get the proper perspective on this Monday from TV Tom Vecchio with a 14-game slate in Major League Baseball that starts with some afternoon baseball on this Monday, a little bit after 2 p.m. Eastern time. All of that and plenty more here on this Monday in the final hour, Joe, of the early line.
Gotta love, right? You got baseball back in full effect here during the week. Couple of afternoon games here. By the way, we still have another college basketball tournament getting ready to start here, Ben, believe it or not. So still got a little something for everybody as we say goodbye to the month of March.
Yeah, we certainly do. There are 2 more spots at stake tonight in the women's Final Four to be figured out. A Lone Star State battle. Texas and TCU. The Longhorns, a 1 seed, a 7.5-point favorite against Haley Van Lith and the Horned Frogs. A 14.5-point number in favor of UConn, led by Paige Beckers, and a 40-point performance in the Sweet 16 win over Oklahoma. Of course, against USC without Juju Watkins. It is why that spread is so large. But now, Joe, as we look at the Final Four this weekend in San Antonio, we wanted to hear from the people. As we think about cutting down the nets, exactly 1 week from tonight in San Antonio, with only 4 teams still standing, but all 4 teams chalk on the one line for just the second ever time in the history of the men's big dance. Which is the best bet to win a national championship at this moment? That's what we had to ask all of you in Fade the Public. 4 teams left in the chase for a national championship. All 4 teams a 1 seed as we get ready for San Antonio and a Saturday night in the Final Four. Duke is the national championship favorite, where they were to start this season, where they were to start the NCAA tournament. Now at plus 105. Florida second best number at plus 270. Houston a 4-1 number. Auburn, despite being the number 1 overall seed, the longest number at 5-1. So Joe, of those numbers and of those teams, which is the best bet to win a title and cut down the nets exactly 1 week from tonight? At SportsGrid on Twitter, the public is backing the favorite. Really, how can you blame them at this moment in a tournament defined by its chalk, defined by its favorites having overwhelming success? 43% backing Duke at that plus 105 number.
Well, I mean, the public is right from this aspect here, Ben. Now is the time to bet Duke. If you haven't, this is the last time you're going to get them at plus money here. They're not going to be a dog in the next game, no matter who they play, whether it be Florida or Auburn. They will be the favorite there. So if you think Duke can beat Houston, well, then you got to believe that Duke can win it all, Ben. So I think the public, whether they realize it or not, this is your last chance to get on the Duke Blue Devils to win it all. And heck, if they beat Houston, Ben, I think a lot of people believe it's already over then at that point. This might be their toughest obstacle.
Again, Joe, the favorites in this tournament have been sensational. We talked about 6+ point favorites, 32-2 straight up. Of course, you want to cash tickets as you lay it with the spread. If you're back in the Blue Devils -4.5, you're hoping they beat Houston by at least 5 points. But Duke is a favorite of 4.5 points, so we expect them to get to the national championship game. And in that national championship game, against either of the two teams hailing from the SEC, Duke would be a 4.5 point favorite in the projected hypothetical lines against Florida, a 5.5 point favorite against Auburn. In a tournament defined not by its chaos this time around, but by its chalk, it makes a lot of sense. I would say from a best bet perspective, though, I would look to the other side. Because Duke is a favorite, I do think you can find some value on that Florida price at plus 270. Now, I have a number on the Gators at 11-1, bet back in early February because Florida lived up to the Ken Pom numbers that we know are the thresholds that you have to meet, and they were a top 12 team in the Week 6 AP poll. I will say, Joe, in the last 20 years, we have seen all 20 national champions be in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. Houston stumbled a little bit early on during Feast Week. Houston was not in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP top 25. Just so you know that the other three teams were. I do think there is some value on Florida and or Auburn at that 5-1 price because, Joe, as you alluded to, 5-1 right now on the Tigers for the number 1 overall seed. They're not going to be a 5-1 money line underdog even if you were to bet both of those money line prices in these matchups against either Florida or Duke. So I do think there is some value on Auburn.
Listen, there is, and the interesting part at these prices here, thank goodness Duke is this chalky, Ben, because you can still come up with a scenario where I can bet Duke to win it all at plus 105, and I can still bet Houston in the points and have a shot at winning both bets, Ben. Because there's also, so you can do the same thing with Auburn, right? You can bet Auburn to win it all, but you can also bet Auburn, take the points, or at some point during the game, bet it, get a really good number, and you'll have both sides of a pretty good bet with a pretty good opportunity to win a national championship.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And Joe, just to say, I did a little bit of math from the moneyline perspective. Auburn right now, a plus 125. Moneyline underdog, again, a projected 5.5 point favorite against Duke if they were to get there. Part of that, of course, is baked into the idea that what if Houston wins a game when they are only a 4.5 point underdog? But if Auburn were to win this game outright against Duke and then be a 5.5, 4.5 point underdog, the moneyline price of a 2-leg moneyline parlay with the Tigers as a dog in both would be a little bit better than 5-1. That being said, both of the SEC teams would be a slight 1.5 favorite against Houston in a projected national championship matchup. Joe, just a quick aside here for a little bit of breaking news to start off this third and final hour. Of course, 2 weeks ago, Andrew Luck, the new acting GM for the Stanford football program, of course, at his alma mater, firing Troy Taylor, who had some complaints against him for harassment in the workplace. After only 2 years and leaving Sacramento State for the Cardinal, Andrew Luck making the decision as the GM to effectively dismiss head coach Troy Taylor. So in his place, as Stanford is undergoing a national search, how about this thing? Frank Reich will be the acting interim head coach for the Stanford Cardinal in the 2025 college football season. Frank Reich has never worked collegiately in any coaching capacity. He will now be the interim head coach for Stanford just for 2025. As the reports are stating, Joe, it is a one-year rental. Both sides understanding that this is only for 1 year, at least as of right now.
Yeah, and well, you know how it works, Ben, with the recruiting process and everything else. Not a good time to be in search of or have no leader of your football team, but stability, I think, is what Andrew Luck said he wanted the most, right? Wanted to stabilize this program, and what better than Frank Reich to be a stabilizer there in this situation where there are no winners at this point.
When Andrew Luck was at Stanford, they were an incredible team under Jim Harbaugh. I do not believe that they ever interacted, Andrew Luck and Frank Reich, in Indianapolis, because how? Where? Find it for me. All right, we'll talk about that on the other side of the break.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Sure. I don't think they did. All right, we'll talk about it up next, live right here on the Early Line.
First time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Before we get into our NBA handicaps here in this third and final hour, a couple of confirmations. Should have never doubted our producer extraordinaire, Joe Frizo. Andrew Luck's final year in the National Football League before that shocking retirement entering 2019 was 2018, Frank Reich's first year as the head coach in Indianapolis. So yes, they have worked together. We were looking at the numbers, and we made sure to confirm that. Thank you to our producer, Joe Frizo. In fact, in 2018, Andrew Luck, more of a great nugget from producer Joe Frizo. Andrew Luck called his new head coach in Indy an offensive genius. They will now be together to lead a new era of Stanford football. Frank Reich hired as the interim head coach, but only for this single year in 2025 after Troy Taylor was fired last week or 2 weeks ago by new GM in Palo Alto. That would be Andrew Luck. Exciting times for Stanford football. As we're making corrections here, I did say Kansas had blown a 21-point lead against Houston. That wasn't the crazy game for KU against Houston. That was against Baylor later on in the regular season. The crazy game for KU against Houston was in the Fog, the last game the Cougs, and the only game this year that Houston was booked as an underdog. Kansas led by 6, 66-60, under 90 seconds remaining. Blew that game in regulation, a double overtime thriller in which Houston won. They were also trailing in OT to force a second overtime twice against Kansas. All right, all of the clarifications and corrections, Joe, now out of the way. We ready for some NBA basketball?
I am. I'm ready for the NBA regular season to be over, as I'm sure there are a number of teams as well that feel the same way at this point, Ben.
Yeah, I think there are many that do. But, Joe, if you are a team in a playoff position, to make a coaching change at this stage of the season would be rather shocking, which is what happened on Friday, right before the weekend got underway. The Memphis Grizzlies parting ways with head coach Taylor Jenkins. During his years in the Grind City, a very successful run for the Grizz. And right now, Joe, Memphis in the 5 spot at 44-30. Hasn't been nearly as prolific for the Grizzlies since the All-Star break, but Taylor Jenkins fired by Memphis before this weekend got started on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, and then miraculously, Ja Morant is all of a sudden able to play in some games, and he's not on the injury list. That whole situation there is just not good. In no way, if anything stable in an organization, would you allow this to happen now, as opposed to the end of whatever it's going to be. It's going to be. You can always fire him, and as soon as the season is over. This makes no sense unless the inmates are running the asylum, so to speak.
Yeah, Joan, I think there is a part of it to be said for sure that the players were not all that thrilled with Taylor Jenkins. Now, I can't say I'm up on Grizzlies chatter and Grizzlies rumor, but of course I do follow our great SportsGrid host, Kevin Walsh, who is highly indebted to the NBA. And through his Twitter, I found out that some in Memphis Grizzlies Twitter thought there was writing on the wall that this could happen even at this stage of the season. Taylor Jenkins, who was there for 6 years in Memphis, including 2 years in 2021-22, 2022-23, where the Grizz finished second in the Western Conference standings. This year, 44-30, but just 8-12 in the 20 games since the All-Star break. Right now in the 5 spot at 44-30. In the NBA's Western Conference. So let's go to the Grizz as they are at home tonight in a Memphis matchup, catching 5 points against the Boston Celtics. Total stands at 236.5. Memphis has dropped 2 in a row, Joe. Can they find their footing tonight against the C's?
I thought we had that old fired coach bounce idea, right? A couple of nights ago at Memphis. John Morant comes back, Desmond Bain, the whole crew is there. And what'd they do? Yeah, they promptly lost at home to the Lakers, who weren't able to stop a nosebleed. Now, the Celtics are coming to town, and I want nothing to do with this Memphis team in this spot here. The Boston Celtics have already shown their second team can go in and light you up for 130 points. I'm getting no defense. Memphis is a hot mess, and they have been, Ben, for over the last month. Not against the Celtics. Am I backing them here tonight?
No, I don't think you should, Joe. In that game, again, the interim head coaching bump Saturday night without Taylor Jenkins for the first time against the Lakers. They were a slight home favorite in the Grind City. They lost that game by 7, 134-127. Memphis has been a huge over team all year. I'm not sure that slows down tonight. Meanwhile, Boston has won 8 in a row. In the 4 games, the C's have been booked as a single-digit favorite in this 8-game win streak. Boston has covered the number every time, making things a little bit interesting atop the Eastern Conference. Only a 4.5-game difference for the C's and the Cavs right now, but Cleveland should find its way to clinching that 1 seed very, very soon. Speaking of the Lakers, they are now back home. They host the Rockets late night in LA on this Monday. 4.5-point spread in favor of the Lakers. Total stands at 225. Can the Lakers continue their winning ways at home tonight against Houston?
Well, they're good. This is going to be an interesting test, I think, for both these teams at this point. I do think if you like the Lakers, you probably like the over, Ben, right? Because there's no way I think they're going to create enough offense to stop the Rockets here. The big question is, can the Rockets defensively slow down Luka and LeBron and company? It's been a lot of overs for the Lakers here. 9 of their last 12 games have averaged 233 points. I like the Lakers. I love the over in this one.
4 of their last 5 to the over, 6 of their last 8 to the over. As Joe said, 9 of their last 12 to the over as well. The Lakers playing a small bit of spoiler. Again, just about a 1.5 underdog in Memphis on Saturday night. They won that game outright. They had dropped 4 of their last 5 entering, booked as a favorite in their last 4, not covering a number in any of those 4 as the favored side. In some important playoff positioning in this matchup tonight, Houston currently the 2 seed in the Western Conference, a 2-game advantage over Denver, who has a 1.5 lead over the LA Lakers, who has a game up over Memphis. All of those tied pieces here in the final 2 weeks of the regular season. More NBA next.
Hey sports fans, here's a tip to keep in mind the next time you make your betting picks. According to research, home field advantage is no joke, especially in those playoffs. In the NBA and the NFL postseason, the home team typically has a 64% shot at victory. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
More NBA action on this Monday. Again, less than 2 weeks remain in the NBA regular season. 2 weeks from yesterday will be that final day around the regular season, but still some playoff positioning to be ironed out, as most teams have about 6 or 7 games max remaining in this NBA campaign. Joe, that includes out in the Eastern Conference. The Indiana Pacers, as of this moment, the 4 seed with a 1.5 lead over the Detroit Pistons, who now have a 1.5 lead over the Milwaukee Bucks, as the Bucks without Damian Lillard have been stumbling. Indiana at home tonight in Indy. The Pacers playing host to the Kings. 5.5-point spread in favor of Indiana. Total stands at 233 and a hook. Where do you start your breakdown for this matchup in Indianapolis?
Well, you got to start by, listen, Indiana would love to lock in that 4 seed, right, and get themselves a guaranteed home series there to start the postseason. That's a big advantage for them in this spot here. I can't trust Sacramento. I also can't trust the idea that I'd be sweating out an under in this game, Ben. Can you? Sabonis looks like he's a go. As long as the Kings are going to push pace, and I think they will in this game, I don't see how this thing stays under the 234.5. It would only be favorites or the over for me in this one.
Yeah, we're really talking bottom of the barrel stuff for the teams that are in play-in consideration around the Western Conference. Indiana trying to solidify that 4 seed. This would help them a ton with that 2-game advantage right now, or the 1.5 lead over Detroit to pick up a victory here. There's only about 5, 6, 7 games remaining. 4 teams around the association, Joe. A 1.5 might not seem like it's all that much to overcome, but you need to win all of your games or a lot of them, and you need the team to drop a majority of theirs down the final 2 weeks of this regular season. Sacramento has dropped 7 of its last 10. They are now in the 10 spot, the 4th and final in the Western Conference play-in tournament. Only a half game behind the Mavericks, who somehow, some way, in the return of Anthony Davis, might be a play-in team. Phoenix Suns, after a 4-game win streak, have now dropped 3 in a row. So Sacramento still a 1.5 lead over Phoenix for that final spot in the Western Conference play-in tournament. Speaking of the Mavs, Dallas at home tonight hosting the Nets. 9-point spread in favor of Dallas. Over under 218 and a hook. What's the play tonight, Joe, in Big D?
Yeah, I mean, it's intriguing, right? Because the Mavericks, the Kings, or the Suns, one of them is going to miss the postseason entirely here. So both of these, this Dallas team is going to be fighting for its playoff lives over the next couple of weeks. And can I tell you something? I mean, kudos to Jason Kidd for holding it together and even giving them an opportunity, Ben, given all the injuries and all the craziness, that they are even in a spot here to be able to make it. They have been feisty. But listen, the Nets don't win a lot of games, but you know what they do, Ben? They cover. They cover a lot. So depending on who's in there tonight, might be worth taking the 10 points with the Brooklyn Nets, who have not exactly been beaten by this kind of number by teams caliber of the Dallas Mavericks.
So Anthony Davis returned exactly a week ago for the Dallas Mavericks. He has played 3 games. The Mavs have played 4. In all 3 games, AD has returned. Dallas has won and covered. In terms of the projected numbers for tonight, Anthony Davis does have a player prop out there, 23.5 from the points perspective. If he is in there, I kind of lean with the Mavs. And to your point, Joe, it's been a wild season in Dallas, right? You trade Luka Doncic. People want Nico Harrison's head on a stake. You lose Anthony Davis after a sensational debut 3 quarters into his start with the Mavs. You lose Kyrie Irving with a torn ACL for the remainder of this year. And yet the Mavericks are more than likely going to be a postseason team if they can hold on here in the final 13 days of this NBA regular season. A testament to them. And frankly, it doesn't seem like the Phoenix Suns are going to put much of a charge into either the Kings or the Mavericks for those final 2 play-in tourney spots out west, Joe. It looks like this era of the big 3, KD, D-Book, Bradley Beal, coming to a close this summer in the Valley.
Yeah. Oh, is Bradley Beal even still on the team? You wouldn't know.
I believe so.
Given the fact that he's never healthy enough to play for anybody. But yes, I think changes are coming in the Phoenix area with their basketball team.
An 8-game NBA slate on this Monday. Maybe we'll have a few plays for you just a little bit later on. TV, Tom Vecchio provides that prop perspective live right here on the early line. Up next.
Hey sports fans, here's a tip to keep in mind the next time you make your betting picks. According to research, home field advantage is no joke, especially in those playoffs. In the NBA and the NFL postseason, the home team typically has a 64% shot at victory. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Monday on the early line on SportsGrid. It is time for that prop perspective to start off a new week. TV Tom Vecchio joins us live right here on TEL, of course, of SportsGrid, the host of Pro Baseball Today, alongside Donnie Rightside. How was the first show, Vecchio, during the full start of this MLB season with a full card on a Sunday for you and DRS to break down?
Yeah, yesterday's show was awesome. We went through some big picture stuff. We went through every single game on the slate. You know, we got some good winners. We knew there was going to be plenty of offense between the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. Obviously, the Yankees are going to continue to score 1 million runs. That was great. We'll roll through that every Sunday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. But we got a lot to get to today. Let's jump into it.
Let's jump into it, Vecchio, and let's not forget the Final Four in San Antonio. You have been following the bracket. You have been paying attention to a tournament not known for its chaos this year, but rather its chalk. For just the second time ever in the history of the men's NCAA tournament, all 4 1 seeds have reached the Final Four. Vecchio, what do you make of that? What do you make of this weekend with so many good teams battling it out in San Antonio?
We're getting awesome basketball, and that's what it comes down to. And I said this on Saturday when I was doing, betting around the rim, and I don't want to throw some shade, but this is what we want to see. Do we really want to see UAB versus UNC Wilmington in the Final Four? No, we want to see the best basketball possible, and that's ultimately what we're getting. Despite the Houston-Tennessee game being a little bit ugly, which I actually enjoyed, we are getting the best players and the best teams out there. The one takeaway I have, at least from the Auburn game, is Broome was awesome, but no one else did a tremendous amount on Auburn. And if they run into that again, where is that production going to come from? Because at pound for pound, I think Florida's better, and I think they can outscore them if they can keep Broome under control at least some capacity. So that's my instant takeaway from that. And then, of course, we'll be siding with both unders in both of the games.
What are your expectations, though, moving forward here, Tom? You mentioned it. 4 of the best teams in the country, the 4 best teams, the
Yes.
4 number 1 seeds. Are we talking about team with the ball last ends up winning both these games, or what are you thinking we're going to get?
That's probably what I'm expecting. Frankly, I think there's going to be a really interesting spot, at least from the Houston-Duke game. If Duke can flex that offense and they get out to an early lead, I am going to be very interested in taking Houston. Yeah. It's 4.5 now. If you can get them at a 6.5 or a 7, and then if Houston clamps down on the defense, brings back some points on the other side, you can get Duke maybe a -1. So that's what I really want to find. Like Duke, a little bit of offense. You buy back in on Houston at a bigger number, and then we get buy back in at Duke. And I think you'll have a really nice spot to find the middle. And I think it'll be Duke versus Florida ultimately.
And just to say, just for the idea of this tournament being chalk, we often see that by the time we reach this stage of the big dance. The cream does rise to the top. Entering this year's NCAA tournament, 62 spots in the Final Four belonging to a 1 seed, more than 60 in total for seeds 2 through 4. So we do often see a lot of ones. The idea of UAB and UNC Dub, not often what we will see anyway. So we have all 4 1 seeds in San Antonio. We also have the opening weekend of this Major League Baseball season. Vecchio, some of the big headlines: an offensive onslaught for the New York Yankees, 15 home runs, 36 runs scored in total in the 3-game sweep over the Brewers. Rafi Devers off to a slow start. The Dodgers unbeaten, 5-0. The Padres unbeaten, 4-0. The Cardinals undefeated at 3-0 as well. What was your main takeaway, one of the biggest things that stood out to you this first weekend of the Major League Baseball season?
What stood out to me is obviously the story with the Yankees bats, and I said this to Donnie yesterday on Pro Baseball Today. The bats are the MLB version of the tush push. The bats are legal. They are within the confines of the MLB rule. One team is doing it. Everyone else has the ability to do it. Alex Cora, the Red Sox manager, said some of the Red Sox players were using those bats in spring training. Everyone can do it. Either get on board or figure out how to pitch better, because that's one thing. 2, I'm not worried about the Braves. They look terrible. They got 1 hit last night. They look terrible, but I'm not worried about them long term. And I think the younger players from the Red Sox are really going to be in a spot to carry them if Devers continues to struggle. Those are the takeaways I have. And the Cardinals are not this good.
The Marlins are that good, though, Tom. They're 3-1, and every game's a walk-off. Like, if you don't put your foot on them, it's, oh, my goodness, here. Did you have the Marlins starting 3-1 to start the season here on your bingo card?
I did not, and the Marlins are a team that it's like a team like a death by 1,000 cuts, right? Like they're never going to beat you with the long ball, right? They're never going to hit 15 home runs like the Yankees, but if you let them hang around, some emerging young pitchers like Max Meyer yesterday, like they have the pieces to make to cause trouble to teams when they think they could take their foot off the gas. That's not going to be the case.
Yeah, and Vecchio, we mentioned our guy Jack McMullen, who has been a frequent guest here on the early line, the new radio play-by-play voice for the Marlins, calling 3 walk-offs in the first 4 games of a season. Every guy he announced scoring the game-winning run in dramatic fashion I had never heard of. So the Fish off to a great start this year with all of those young pieces. We've got a 14-game slate around MLB on this Monday. 4 games, Vecchio, in the afternoon hours. So in that early portion of the MLB card, what are you liking the most?
Let's go to the Phillies. They got, a bit of a tough game yesterday. I was on them for multiple areas, props, winning, whatever it might be. But let's go to Kyle Schwarber, 2+ total bases. He's going up against German Marquez. Last season, German Marquez only pitched 4 innings. The year before that, he only pitched 20 innings. He has been dealing with injuries the entire time. So we have to go all the way back to 2022 when we see he allowed a .493 slugging to lefties, 1.61 home runs per 9. Also, in spring training, German Marquez looked terrible, absolutely terrible. So we can take Schwarber for 2+ total bases at +105. You could also look for him in RBI. Alec Baum, I'm also very interested in this year. He didn't come through yesterday despite having massive exit velocities to start the year. I will also be on Alec Baum for 2+ total bases.
Well, I'm guessing the Mets are going to try and take a little bit of a view and realize that we should probably put Miami away sooner rather than later. So give me a prop in this game that you're looking at.
Yeah, that's going to be going to Pete Alonso. It's kind of the same situation where Alonso had some really nice exit velocities to start the season versus Houston. I'll take him in a RBI at +125. Cal Quantrell's on the mound for the Marlins. I know he pitched for the Rockies last year, so some of his numbers are slightly inflated, but last year versus righty, still a .464 slugging, 1.70 home runs per 9, and a .487 xFIP. So the Mets are the better team. The Marlins are off to a great start, as we just spoke about, but the Mets are the better team, and the offense will be there. They have a 4.97 implied run total. I expect them to score today.
A really big slate around the Major League Baseball card on this Monday. That's what you want for the first full week of the MLB campaign underway. Vecchio, we've got 8 games in the NBA on this Monday night. As we go to the hardwood, what's one of your favorite plays for the day in the association?
Yeah, let's go to Lakers, Rockets out west late night. And let's go to Alperen Şengün under 19.5 points. It's minus 122. It's a little bit of juice, but I see this as a more defensive style of game, despite the offense that we've seen from the Lakers, obviously, versus Memphis the other night, the Rockets. This is a game that's important. Both these are playoff-bound teams. I'm hoping that we see a playoff-type environment. The Lakers are still around the 9th fewest points per game to opposing centers at 20.8. They're still 21st in the league when it comes to offense pace. They're not playing super fast. I think their defense is slightly underrated despite a little bit, some losses they've had. And Şengün's been under this number in 6 out of the last 10 games. I don't expect him to be the focal point on offense. I'm expecting a playoff vibe in this game.
Vecchio, what else? We've got Major League Baseball. We've talked college basketball. And in the NBA, can we round it out, jack of all trades? Is there a place you like on the ice tonight as the NHL regular season nears its conclusion as well?
Yeah, let's go to the Avs at home. Nathan McKinnon, one of the best players in the league, 2+ points at plus 114. Over the last 2 weeks, he's going up against Calgary Flames. Flames are in the bottom half of the league, 2.81 goals allowed per 60 minutes in 5v5 situations. McKinnon's obviously awesome. He's tied for the league with 109 points. He's coming off a game with only one, coming off a loss, and I love Nate, the fact that he's in a spot juggling back between him, Leon Draisaitl, and Nikita Kucherov for the most points in the league. Let's take Nate at 2+ points at plus 114.
Tom Vecchio, man, that's how you do it. On this Monday, we've got Major League Baseball props. We've got props in the NBA. We've got props on the ice as well. We call you the jack of all trades and the prop perspective delivered each and every time. TV Tom, as always, we thank you for being here on the early line on SportsGrid. We'll talk a little bit more around MLB up next here on TEL.
You are banking on a guy that's got one Sweet 16 berth in his career.
How many years has he been a D1 head coach?
What, 15?
18.
This clown is walking into that tradition. Let me tell you something, bro. You just stepped into the hot seat, because if you don't turn it around quick at Villanova, they're going to boo you out of there just like they boo you out of College Park tonight.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
$14 games on this Monday around Major League Baseball. That means 28 of our 30 MLB clubs in action. First full week of this Major League Baseball season about to begin. And the Dodgers, Joe, as we might have expected, are already winning a ton of games to start this season. Both games in Tokyo, sweeping the Tigers in a 3-game set over the opening weekend in the Bigs as well. Make that a perfect 5 for 5 for the Dodgers. Will it be a perfect 6 for 6 against a Braves team in Atlanta looking for its first win of the year, having been swept in a 4-game set elsewhere in Southern California against the Padres earlier this weekend. Late night at the Ravine in Los Angeles. The Dodgers a minus 220 favorite as Tyler Glasnow gets the start. The over-under stands at 8 for this game. Will the Dodgers start as the odds makers expect, a perfect 6 for 6?
Remember, Ben, when I think it was a couple of years ago, actually over the last couple of years, when it came to Dodger games, there became a point in the season where we're like, just lay the run and a half, guys. Just lay the run and a half. They're not losing one-run games. They're not winning one-run games. They're either going to win by 1 million or they'll lose outright. In this particular spot, I don't see how they're not covering the run line here. I like Glasnow only. I'm going to cut this game in half, given the bullpen work that we saw them have to deploy against Detroit here. So I got no problem backing LA early in the first 5, and I'll lay that half a run in this one, expecting that they get the homes before Atlanta gets the Glasnow.
I think it's a good look as well, Joe, just because of how hefty that price is now with Grant Holmes getting the start for the Braves. The Dodgers, of course, a very short favorite entering this year to win the NL, to win the World Series. That's where LA still stands at plus 135. The Braves did enter with the second best price to win the National League pennant. Now, we saw some crazy moves in terms of the individual award races, most namely Aaron Judge, minus 110 to win AL MVP after entering the year with the second best price at 3-1 behind Bobby Witt Jr. The Braves' price, despite dropping each of their first 4 games to begin this year to win the National League pennant, did not really move. That's probably sound. There's 162 games to be played, even 158 remaining. Atlanta's still plus 550, Joe, second best number to win that National League pennant.
Yeah, and listen, I expect their offense to look a lot scarier than what we just witnessed here in the first weekend there, Ben. I think they're going to get healthier as the season goes on. The pitching will settle in, and they are going to be a tough out for anybody, including the Dodgers.
Shut out twice, though, by San Diego, as Joe had been alluding to. Some interleague interesting matchups tonight, early on in the year, for 2 teams that won their opening weekend set. That would be Houston and San Francisco. Let me just make sure they didn't play each other to start this weekend. Let's make sure they did. I can't find it. They did not. So let's just make sure on that. Thank you very much.
Houston played the Mets. The Giants played the Reds.
Houston.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Just making sure. A lot of bracket central focus for me this weekend. Houston did win 2 of their first 3. San Francisco winning 2 of their first 3 as well. The Astros hosting the Giants to start off this set on this Monday. Minus 122 for Houston at home. Ronel Blanco gets the start for the Stros. The over-under stands at 8. How do you break down the opening game of this set in H-Town?
Well, it's funny because Houston didn't hit all that much against the Mets, and you had mentioned they still managed to rally and win 2 of 3 in that series there. And I would not be shocked. I mean, Alvarez had a couple of big hits during the season, but it's the pitching and that rotation and that bullpen really showed me something. I think that's going to be what their calling card is. I think they're going to win a lot of 4-1, 5-2 kinds of games here. They're at home. Another first 5 for me. The bullpen did get a lot of work, Houston, there, but I think Blanco going up against Hicks, I think we're going to get fewer runs early in this. Little first 5 under 4.5 for me here.
Again, a 14-game slate around Major League Baseball on this Monday. 4 in the afternoon hours. We'll talk a couple of those games as well. Let's go out to the Pacific Northwest. The Mariners in a divisional duel to start off their MLB campaign. Split a 4-game series against the Athletics. The A's could be a feisty team this year. Both teams winning 2 games. The Tigers, as we shared, swept on the road in Los Angeles this weekend to begin. Jackson Jobe, the promising righty for Detroit, makes his first MLB career start today on the road in the Northwest against the Mariners. Total stands at 7.5. The M's a slight favorite. The Tigers, though, Joe, despite dropping their first 3 games, very high hopes. I know I bet them to win an American League pennant before this year got started last week. What do we think of this game in Seattle tonight?
Yeah, I think whoever pitches against Seattle, I'm taking their strikeout prop over. This team is awful. They strike out more than I have seen anybody in the first couple of games against not great pitching, by the way, against Oakland there. And they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. I don't know how that changes here. I do think Detroit gets off the schneid, gets one here against Seattle, and does it actually rather easily.
The underdog today, Job's K-prop, by the way, for his MLB debut, 4.5, the over having plenty of juice. Joe, let's talk a couple of those afternoon games. Our first game on the docket in Milwaukee. The Brewers very happy to leave the Bronx, head back to the state of Wisconsin. They will host the Royals. It's basically a pick-em between Milwaukee and KC. Slight edge for the Brewers in their home opener.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, they got absolutely smoked. But again, we had asked, is the Milwaukee pitching this bad? It wasn't like the bats weren't there. They didn't have a problem scoring runs, putting some runners on base. But are they that bad? I think we'll have a better idea after this series. Feels like an over to me. I expect Kansas City to put some runs on the board, and I expect Milwaukee to do the same.
Joe, you would certainly hope that if the Royals were watching anything that happened in the Bronx today, maybe a couple of torpedo bats finding their way to Milwaukee for the opener of this set for Kansas City. We'll give you a best bet on the other side of the break. So much to choose from here. Major League Baseball slate, 14 games to start the first full week. Women's college hoops in the Elite Eight. Maybe some NBA plays. That's next on the early line.
First time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line, rounding out our 3 hours together. He is Joe Ranieri. I am Ben Stevens. We are going to give you a best bet for this Monday slate. There is a lot to break down. And Joe, as we were discussing in that commercial break, not just the NCAA tournament, but the new Crown Basketball Championship, I think is what, or the College Basketball Crown, I think is what they're calling it, out in Las Vegas. hosted by Fox Sports. A bunch of power conference teams that did not make the NCAA tournament, did not play in the NIT, now playing today in the Crown out in Sin City. That includes a couple of familiar names. Utah and Butler, some afternoon basketball, a 1.5 in favor of the Utes. Nebraska, 5.5-point favorite against Arizona State. How invested are these teams? What do the rosters look like as the transfer portal is now underway for these teams that have not been in the NCAA tournament? A lot to be figured out. There's a lot of Major League Baseball. 14 games on this Monday. And of course, as we shared, 8-game NBA slate, 2 games in women's college basketball to round out the Elite Eight with the final 2 spots and a Final 4 at stake. So, Joe, before we say farewell to everybody here on this Monday, before we say goodbye, it is time for a best bet. It's time for bye, bye, bye. Ranieri, with so many different avenues to choose from in so many different sports, what is your best of all the bets that you could possibly wager on this Monday?
Well, I am going to go of course, down the road from me here. The Miami Marlins taking on the New York Mets here. And I'm going to lay the 1.5 at just about plus money there with the New York Mets here. Now, as good a start as it has been for the Marlins, and they looked better. They looked very good, in fact. But that was facing a Pirates lineup that has a bunch of AAA bats in it. So it's nice to come back against the Pirates. I think the Mets not happy with how things started against Houston. I think they come in here. I think they enjoy hitting in this ballpark. And I think runs are coming. And I think a win by multiple runs is also coming for the New York Mets today.
Yeah, maybe so. The Amazons trying to get on track to start off this 2025 MLB season. Of course, a lot of expectation after the record-setting signing of Juan Soto back in the winter. Something about Miami, though. 3 of 4 from the Pirates to start off this season. All 3 wins via walk-off. A lot of magic for the Fish at this moment. Joe, I'm going to go to the women's NCAA tournament Elite Eight matchups that we have. Lone Star State battle between Texas and TCU. The Longhorns, a 7.5-point favorite against the Horned Frogs. I have Texas winning a national championship. 2 of my tickets still in play in the women's big dance. Texas and UCLA already advancing to a Final Four for the first time in program history yesterday with a tightly contested win over LSU. It's unfortunate that in this game today, in the Elite Eight matchup we hope for, in this portion of the bracket in Spokane between UConn and USC, that it is not the Huskies led by Gino Auriemma and Paige Beckers against Lindsey Gottlieb's Trojans, of course, with one of the best stars in the sport in Juju Watkins. Injured in the round of 32, out for the remainder of the big dance. And Joe, because of that, it's why we see a 14.5-point spread in favor of UConn. I think that number is justified. The Huskies, though, have gotten off to a couple of slow starts so far in their opening 3 games in the big dance. First half number not out just yet on FanDuel. That's how I would approach this game. If not the first half number, then just Paige Beckers alone. 34 in the round of 32 win against South Dakota State. 40 points in the Sweet 16 victory against Oklahoma. I don't expect it to stop because I'm not sure Southern Cal has the answer. Beckers points prop today in the Elite Eight, 22.5. I would lean to the over there. UConn first half number when it comes out. That is the best bet. What a Monday we have, Joe. So many options to choose from. Going to be a really good week in the world of sports. Major League Baseball underway. Final 2 weeks of the NBA regular season. And, of course, a Final Four on Saturday awaits in San Antonio.
Looking very forward to it. It's a good time of year as we turn the calendar to April, Ben, and it feels like UConn has turned the page there with Gino. Back to those days where they covered 20-point lines a lot back in the day.
Yep. Turn a page, but a familiar chapter, or at least a story for Connecticut.
Yep.
Is this about to be Final Four appearance number 24 for Gino Auriemma? The odds makers expect. He's Joe Ranieri. I'm Ben Stevens. The early line returns tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, live right here on SportsGrid.